Today we are talking about common HVAC issues. These are common failures that I've experienced over my 20 years as a service technician. This is not an all-encompassing list, obviously. These are just sort of the main issues I've experienced. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, but just wanted to share with you my experience here. So what I found very common is folks forget to change their air filter. A dirty air filter causes a lack of proper airflow through the system, especially through your coil. This can cause the coil to freeze up and the low pressure vapor refrigerant line to freeze up. As a result, warm air will be coming out of the vents instead of cold air. I would not recommend the high efficiency, high-end, expensive pleated air filters. I would stick with more along the lines of a MERV 8, because the high-end, high-efficiency pleated air filters can actually restrict the airflow too much for your system. So just be mindful of that. Ideally, you want to change these pleated air filters every 90 days, depending on your specific circumstance, of course. Dirty coils. Here's a picture of a dirty evaporator coil. They do make waterless or rinse-free evaporator coil cleaner, where you can clean these out. Also, at the same time, make sure you clean the pan out, clean the condensate drain line out. If you have a P-trap, clean out that P-trap. And your exterior condenser coil, that also needs to be cleaned out. So failed capacitors. I've replaced a few capacitors in my time. If the outdoor condensing unit is not on, it's not running, or you hear it humming, check the capacitor. Check for bulges, liquid leaking out, rusted and corroded terminals. You can also test the capacitor. Always remember to disconnect the wires and bleed off stored energy from the capacitor before testing it. So the way you would do that, once you disconnect the capacitor, you would take a screwdriver and short across the terminals on the top of the capacitor. Obviously, when you do that, do not touch the metal portion of the screwdriver with your hand. And when you replace the capacitor, make sure the new one has the same specs as the old one. And it's a good idea to take a picture of your connections so you know where the wires go back on when you install the new one. Failed contactors. So on the right hand side, you see that contactor, the contact in there is pitted and burnt and worn. So with contactors, you want to listen for chattering, buzzing, look for burnt, pitted, worn down contacts, look for broken, corroded terminals, broken wires, corroded wire connections. Look for contacts that are spot welded in the closed position. Sometimes when these fail, they'll actually fail in the closed position, so they won't open the circuit. It'll constantly keep the circuit closed. Be sure the new contactor specs match the old contactor specs. And if you look on that label, you can see the model number, the voltage rating, amperage rating, etc. A failed blower motor. I've had to replace these before. You can inspect and test the blower motor capacitor, but you want to ask or check, does the blower motor spin freely? Does the blower wheel spin freely? Are there any odd noises? And here again, be sure to get the correct replacement motor, the correct specs as the old one. And sometimes you can reuse the old blower wheel. Sometimes if the blower wheel is damaged or out of balance, or you try to clean it and you can't clean it off all the way, you might want to replace it, because an out of balance blower wheel can cause problems for the new blower motor. Just something to keep in mind. A failed condenser cooling fan motor. So on your outdoor unit, you can also inspect and test the motor capacitor, but does the fan spin freely and easily? Are there any odd noises? And what is the fan blade condition? Many times you can just reuse the fan blade if it's just fine. But if it's been damaged or bent, So when it spins, it's wobbly and out of balance. You want to replace that fan blade assembly. Here again, be sure to get the correct replacement. And there's usually a data plate or a data sticker on the side of the motor, or if not, if you can't read it, you can go off of the make, model, and serial number of the condensing unit itself to track down the proper motor. Failed safety switches. So flame rollout limit switch, pressure switches. This is more for the heating season inside your furnace, inside the air handler. But does your flame rollout limit switch simply need to be reset, or has it failed? If it has tripped, what caused it to trip? Is there a safety issue that needs to be addressed? Pressure switch. What is the condition of the tubing that connects to the pressure switch? Is the tubing cracked? Is it loose? Did it fall off? Is it clean and clear, not clogged? Here again, be sure to get the correct replacement off of the data sticker on the switch itself, because they have different ratings. I hope this information helped. Please like, share, subscribe, leave me a comment for future video topics you would like me to cover. Thank you for watching.